ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Namaskar, my dear friends. This is video number 21 on Viveka Chudamani. Topic of this video is actions, thoughts and vasanas renounce. Verse number 310 to 319 cover this topic. We start with verse number 310. Nigrih satror hamo avkashah kavchinne deyo visya anuchintaya sa ev sanjeevan heturasya prakshin jambitaro vambo. Having once overpowered this enemy, the ego, not a single moment's rest should be given to it to ruminate over sense objects. That is verily the cause of its returning to life, just like water is the cause for the flowering of a citron tree that has dried up before. If a chance is given to the mind and its passions to express themselves, there will be no end to their destructive floods. Therefore, having destroyed the ego, which is your sole enemy, never give the mind the slightest chance to think of the objective world. Attachment for even the most innocent looking insignificant thing will pull you down to endless bondage. A sadhu having attachment for his loin cloth could not tolerate the rat trouble. He brought a cat to keep away the rats. The rats, no doubt, disappeared, but the cat had to be fed, and hence he brought a cow to his humble hut of study. The cow had to be looked after, hence he decided to have a wife to look after the needs of the cow. After some time they had children, their naming ceremony, nourishing and educating them, marriage of each endless disastrous. Therefore never give a chance to the mind to ruminate over the sense objects. Visya anuchinta. Sense objects will come your way with all their irresistible enchantments. It is absurd to say that they will not come into your mind. They will and they should. It is but natural. But let us not encourage them and commit ourselves to their thoughts. Mind is essentially of the nature of lust, anger, etc. The six-fold emotions are in their aggregate called the mind. You cannot have the mind without these qualities. Any thoughts arising in the mind will belong to one or the other of these six groups. The best way to control and end them is to direct them towards Narayana. Desire to possess, when directed towards Narayana, becomes the burning spiritual anxiety of devotion for the Lord. Therefore, turn all attitudes of the mind towards Him. When sense thoughts come, let us repeat the divine name of the Lord, Narayana. When you try to maintain the thought of Lord Narayana, you unconsciously drive your thoughts away from the fascinating charms of the distracting sensibility all around you. These sensuous thoughts are the elixir Sanjeevani that revives the once annihilated mind. This is the miracle that revives the dead ego. An apparently dried up citron tree, when regularly watered for a few days, revives and flowers again. The tree which looked dead gets revived by a little water. Similarly, the apparently dead ego revives the moment you take an active interest in maintaining sense thoughts. Discourage extravert thoughts as they arise immediately, sublimate them by substitution of Narayana thoughts. Thoughts, when oriented towards the Lord, become spiritual thoughts capable of bringing about one's personality unfoldment. Stanza number 311. देह आत्मना संशिष्ट एवं कामी विलक्षणे कामयता कथम सयात अतो अर्थ संधान पर तत्वमेव भेद परशक्त्या भवबंध हेतु. He alone who has identified himself with the body is greedy of sense pleasures. How can one devoid of the body idea be greedy? Hence, the tendency to ruminate over sense objects is indeed the cause for the bondage of becoming and the idea of distinction or duality. Now Sankara argues to make the students clearly understand a subtle philosophical truth. Kama is desire. Kami is a desirer, a sensuous man. A sensuous man is defined in this verse as one who permanently remains in the idea that I am the body. As long as one has the feeling I am the body's demands for sense gratifications become imperative and one becomes seamlessly sensuous. Such an individual starts seeking sense gratifications for the body as a body. In contrast to the sensuous man, a realized man is indicated as being just the opposite. A kami is one who runs after the objects, emotions, thoughts, while the realized man is one who gets away from these to reach the self and its infinitude. The man of realization and desires cannot go together. Desiring is the mind gushing towards objects, emotions, thoughts, gratifications, while perfection is the mind turned totally away from all objects, both within and without. Just as light and darkness, day and night cannot coexist, so too ignorance and knowledge can never coexist. They are at opposite poles, each the antithesis of the other. Perception of plurality is constant contemplation of the world of objects. This is the cause for bondage, the reason for all conflicts in life, the source of all struggles in existence. If this be so, then how can ego sense once annihilated ever rise? Sankara explains in the following verse the secret logic of the ego's return. Stanza number 312. कार्य प्रवर्धन बीज प्रवृद्धि परिदृश्यते कार्य नाशाद बीज नाश मा atkaryam nirodhyet. When the effects are flourishing, the seeds also observed to increase. When the effects are destroyed, the seeds also are destroyed. Therefore, the effects must be subdued. When a seed is allowed to grow into a tree, the tree will produce millions of seeds. A thriving tree will yearly bring forth a huge crop of seeds. If the tree is destroyed, there will be no crop of seeds emerging from it. Stop the effect and the cause also ends. We all have sense vasanas in us. If these are given a favorable chances, watered by our egocentric thoughts, the seeds, the urges for sense gratifications, the vasanas increase, grow, flourish, and multiply. Then the individual helplessly confesses, I cannot go out of it. Therefore, when the low base extravert vasanas spring forth to expression, curse them, do not allow them to stem forth and yield more of such poisonous vasanas, even though the ego has been apparently annihilated. The vasanas which are the cause for the ego lie dormant, and so if we allow the sense thoughts, Visya Anu Chintanam, a free play in the mind, those vasanas will revive and then the ego will necessarily manifest. Therefore, by constant meditation upon the self in all, turn the mind away from sense thoughts and allow no chance for the return of the ego sense. Stanza number 313. वासना वर्धिते कार्यम कार्ये वर्धया च वासना वर्धते सर्वथा पुंसः संसारो न निर्वर्तते. Through the increase of vasanas, egocentric work increases, and when there is an increase of egocentric work, there is an increase of vasanas also. Thus, man's transmigration never comes to an end. In the previous verse, the cause and effect have been discussed. If the effect increases, the cause also increases. There, the example of a tree was given to demonstrate the truth of the cause-effect phenomenon. The results come to manifest because of vasanas. The results are egocentric thoughts and sensuous actions. When the actions have manifested, they in their turn create more and more vasanas. From vasanas spring forth more actions. Again and again, this endless chain of sorrows continues. Thus, cause and effect are interchangeable. The cause can become an effect, and this effect becomes the next cause. This cause effect chain is never ending. When this body becomes incapable of expressing the vasanas, another body has to be taken up, and there too man indiscriminately accumulates fresh vasanas and moves on to yet another body. This is called transmigration smriti. To break this vicious circle, you can do nothing directly with the vasanas. They are already there. Their manifestation alone can be controlled and stopped by redirecting them into fresh channels of newly discovered, healthier attitudes and nobler urges. The weeds were in the garden before I purchased the plot. Now I can only try to remove the existing weeds. If I allow the weeds to exist every year, they will multiply. So the moment the weeds sprout, I pluck them off and throw them away. No doubt fresh ones do grow, but I pluck them too. Pluck, pluck, pluck. I do not allow them to thrive in my garden. Every time the weeds are removed carefully along with their very roots, after removing them, I do not allow them to lie about in my garden grounds. I collect them carefully and throw them far away. Even after weeding the whole garden, I should expect at least some of them to come up again, because there must be some seeds ungrown still lying scattered. They had not grown only because they had no chance to grow and flourish. They were all lying dormant, but I shall never relax. I will at last, there will be no more, until at last there will be no more seeds remaining to germinate more weeds anywhere in my garden. I must then prepare different flower beds. Thus my hands must be constantly working on the plot, not only for plucking the weeds but for plucking the flowers also. Similarly, the mind also must be well set and diligently attended to, as a gardener with his faithful efforts ever keeps his garden trim and gay. All sense thoughts are to be weeded out and spiritual ideals must be planted. When the sense thoughts rise up, immediately pluck them out. This attention to the garden of thoughts must be a continuous job. There should not be any break in it until you realize the infinitude. Destroy this ego completely. There is no time for any slackening anywhere during this precious, though limited span of life. Stanza number 314. Sansar band vichittai तद्दिव्यं प्रदहेदत्ति वासनावर्धिरेताभ्यां चिन्तया क्रियया bahi. In order to snap the chain of transmigration, one should burn to ashes these two for thinking of sense objects and doing selfish actions lead to increase of vasanas. There are two main causes for the increase in vasanas. Number one, continuous thinking of the sense objects, chintaya, and two, acting upon the sense objects in the world outside, kriya bahi. He who subjectively contemplates upon the sense objects but apparently restricts his sense indulgence is called a hypocrite by the Gitaâ. Character consists no doubt in right acts, but they are built with right thoughts. Subjective thoughts and objective actions both create vasanas, limitations which drag the ego into new births and deaths. These two are to be cut asunder in order to end the tragedy of transmigration. These two forces prompt each individual to take up again and again an appropriate physical body to continue the stupidity of living for sheer sense gratifications. He who wants to cut off this endless stream of sorrow, the non-stop dash from stupidity to stupidity, has to end these two prompting forces. Chinta and Kriya are themselves no doubt the effects of powerful vasanas, and they create a fresh crop of more powerful vasanas. If you want to get away from these powerful vasanas, you must destroy these two. In the spiritual path, there are moments when one has the feeling, in fact, a hallucination, that one has reached somewhere. These are no doubt great peaks, but in those apparent heights, we cannot permanently remain in perfect safety. We may slip again if we look back, even once. Back means towards the object, emotion, thought world. When the mind and intellect have turned towards reality, never again look back. Once you become an extrovert, the ego at once precipitates. The sense objects crowd around you for attention, and terrible vasanas are created. You fall again into sansar. All sadhana becomes important, futile, a great waste. So, without looking back, go ahead with a constant forward gaze. Sometimes the seeker feels very lustful. This is caused by himself. There is no other cause. He himself allows a lustful thought to rise up in him and encourages it. Then this thought forces you into lustful activity, and the two together create lustful vasanas. Tying you down, they blockade your march and you get helplessly stranded. When a lustful thought comes, do not encourage it. Maintain the attitude of a witness towards it. Be fully conscious of it and chant ardently Narayana, Narayana. Seeing the pure body and serene face of Lord Buddha, a prostitute felt tremendous attachment. She went to the place where Buddha was resting for the night with fruits and other offerings. As she knocked at the door, Lord Buddha opened it and stepped out. He saw a beautiful, richly dressed girl standing with offerings of fruits at that untimely hour. Obviously, she had come to offer them to the Lord, but at midnight there was no hesitation. Gautama said, Mother, what can your son do for you? Poor woman who came with burning passion froze to the spot. Similarly, a lustful thought might rise up in your mind. Do not encourage it. Cry Hari Om with confidence and faith. Beware of the low thoughts at all times. Carefully sublimate them with divine thoughts. Stanza number 315. Tabhyam parvardhamana sa sute samsarti atmana त्रियाणां च अक्षोपाय सर्वासुवाथासु सर्वदा. Stanza number 316. सर्वत्र सर्वतः सर्वब्रह्मात्रा अवलोकनहि सद्भावना वासना दाढ़ तत्रियम लयमश्नुते. Augmented by these two, the vasanas produce one's transmigration. These three, however, are destroyed by looking upon everything under all circumstances, always, everywhere, and in all respect as Brahma and Brahma alone. Through the strengthening of the longing to be one with Brahma, those three will be annihilated. Vasanas increased by thoughts and action cause transmigration. The pure Atma in delusion apparently comes to feel the pangs of both births and deaths, just as one suffers the agonies of drowning in one's dream. The only method of destroying these three thoughts, actions, and vasanas is to recognize nothing but Brahma everywhere, under all conditions, at all times, in all circumstances. Oh, that thing is beautiful. Thus, when the mind craves for it, immediately tell it that its beauty is because of Narayana. How beautiful the Lord must be himself to impart this much of his beauty to this insignificant thing. Passionate lust transforms itself by such a divine attitude into pure devotion. The lustful love for the world of objects, when turned sincerely towards Narayana, is called devotion bhakti. Those who are doing sadhana will understand this. Others will not understand now. Seeing Brahma everywhere, Brahma Avalokanam is not merely seeing everything is Narayana. It is much more serious than a vocal declaration. All this is nothing but Brahma. This play of body, mind, intellect is the play of the five seats, Panchakoshas. As a result of the Panchakoshas, the Atma, the self in me, is experienced as being limited and ineffectual all the time. It is all my own consciousness playing in eternal variety as objects. Such a feeling and understanding will come as a result of developed and deepened spiritual vasana, adhyatma vasana. By this process of constant thinking of Narayana, the Narayana vasana becomes stronger than the urges for sense objects. Vasana, vasana, we say vasana generated by our devotion for Brahma, the reality Satbhava Vasana can annihilate all our sense hungers, therefore continue practicing it diligently. This Brahma gazing, Brahma Matra Avlokanam is to reflect upon the Upanishad statements like when he becomes one with Brahma, then with what and whom will he see, etc. And upon the Gita declaration as having seen the highest, even the taste for the sense objects retire, etc. To meditate upon these and to become aware of Upanishadic. Overall, this is but this self is to annihilate the triple cause for transmigration, vasanas, thoughts, and action. Stanza number 317. Kriya nase bhave chinta naso dvasana akshaya vasana prakshayo moksha sa jivan mukti prishyate. With the end of selfish actions, brooding over sense objects ends, which is followed by destruction of vasanas. The destruction of vasanas is liberation, and this is considered as liberation in life. These three vasanas, chinta and karma, are factors closely interconnected. This represents the chain of causation. The one is the cause for the one following. When sensuous actions are not performed, many ethical and moral principles are obeyed implicitly at the body level. If sensuous thoughts are not allowed to express themselves as actions, sensuous vasanas will also end. Thus, we are trying to end the vasanas by attacking their grosser expressions in the form of actions and thoughts. We strive to control the grosser in order to finally come to control the subtler. This is real pranayama, control of the prana, through a process of intelligent control of the effect. Vedanta advises us to control and annihilate the cause for the sorrows of life, the vasanas. Regulate all activities so that fresh channels of wrong thoughts, negative vasanas are not formed. When sensuous thoughts cease to rise in the mind, formation of sensuous vasanas is automatically controlled. When the vasanas have ended, there is liberation. Absence of vasanas is liberation from the thraldom of desires and actions, moksha. An individual who has thus eliminated all his entanglements with thoughts as a result of his freedom from vasanas achieved by controlling his actions is considered as liberated even by living Jivan Muktaha. Stanza number 318. Sadvasana Spurti Vijarbhne Sati Hayasso Vilina Pya Amadivasana Ati Prakarsta Aruna Brahmaya Valiyate Sadhu Yatha Tamistra. When the longing to be one with Brahma has vividly risen to expression, the egocentric vasanas will readily disappear as the most intense darkness completely disappears in the glow of the rising sun. The last line of an earlier verse declared by the increase of spiritual vasanas, these three will get annihilated. Here we have a lucid annotation for this daring declaration. When the Narayana Vasana becomes stronger, the sensuous Vasanas, thoughts and actions will automatically get annihilated. The vasanas for the reality, sadvasana, is cultivated more and more when the seeker lives a life engaged in his sadhana of hearing, reflection, and meditation. When the sadvasana has started expressing itself, a total change will come about in all his physical, mental, and intellectual relationships. When we recognize only one Narayana, ever present everywhere, we will have no likes or dislikes. Love, kindness, tolerance, and mercy will thereafter come to express automatically through all our relationships in the world around us. The ego and ego prompted vasanas, the selfish, arrogant, misappropriating attitudes at the body, mind, intellect levels will get dissolved to be replaced by the new vasanas that have been now generated. So, asat vasanas are eliminated by tendencies created in the mind by constant remembrance of the reality. Sat vasanas. At present, we are living a life of identification with the unreal, and hence asat vasanas are predominant in our hearts. Therefore, we madly behave the way we do. There can be they can be eliminated, and a brilliant spiritual life of beauty and joy can be substituted by the newly cultivated vasana for the reality. Aruna is the charioteer of the Lord Sun. Aruna is the early dawn, the beautiful silent glow that heralds the morn when the sun has not actually risen above the horizon. Like the pilot car of the president, Aruna comes first and then soon the sun emerges. The pitch darkness of the night, however dreadful it might have been, gets dispelled with the advent of the light of the dawn. Aruna. The entire darkness is dissolved effectively and totally. Then the sun rises. The sun never sees darkness. The sun cannot be where light is not, light being its very existence. The Atman, the pure knowledge, can never be compatible with ignorance. There is no ignorance in Atma, the self. When the sun emerges, there is no darkness. The president of a country, as long as he is the president can never experience a traffic jam in any town. At the moment of the experience of Brahma, there is no more any ignorance to be removed. Ignorance gets removed during the sadhana itself. When positive vasanas, sad vasanas have removed negative vasanas, asad vasanas, where ignorance has been already removed, knowledge dawns. Vasanas incessantly weaving the egocentric individuality constitute the darkness. Selfish and arrogant ideas are the darkness that brings about all the sorrows of existence. They are all lifted at the very presence of the thoughts of the higher. Sat vasanas remove the Ashtavasanas. When the Ashtavasanas are all removed, one is ready for the reception of the great Lord. Therefore, the moral preparation and ethical adjustment for the resurrection of the individuality from its ego and egocentric assumptions is the very beginning of spirituality. Nay, it is also the very culmination of all efforts. This is all that you can accomplish. More than that is not for you to achieve. It will automatically come to you. With such a prepared bosom, sit in a thrilled patience of ecstatic expectancy, like a lover waiting for the promised visit of his beloved. This hopeful and expectant waiting for awareness to reveal itself is called meditation. Stanza number 319. Tam satam कार्ये मनर्थजालं न दृश्यते सत्योदिते दिनेशे तथाद्वैत आनंद सानुभूतो न वास्ति बंधो न च दुख गंधः. Darkness and its resultant evils are not noticed when the sun rises. So too on realization of bliss absolute there is neither bondage nor the least trace or misery. Tamas is darkness, night, and things that are born out of darkness are called tamah karyam. Fear actually missing the road, toppling over some stone, falling down, and wounding oneself, the treacherous dagger of a hidden enemy. All these are the concomitants of darkness. Tamas loots away our peace. When the Lord of the day sun rises, both the darkness and its effects are totally lifted. When the sun rises, not only the darkness but the entire bundle of sorrows created by darkness disappear immediately. Similarly, in the presence of God, every step becomes correct. Not knowing Him in utter ignorance, we generate egocentric stupidity in ourselves and bump against everything, whether existing and non existing. Existing things we fail to see, non existing things we imagine and fancifully create. Thus, we create for ourselves an entire world of confusions, a most sorrowful, miserable, and tragic destiny indeed. For him who has experienced supreme bliss, there is not even a whip of sorrow, dukh, gandha. He has no bondage, and hence the conditionings of the body, mind, intellect are not there. Naturally, there cannot be any more sorrow for him. That blissful condition of perfect release and joy is indicated in the following verse. So I conclude this video at this stage. Thank you for watching this video. Namaskar, my dear friends. Thank you. Next video number 22 will start with stanza number 320 and topic will be total vigilance, its price. Thank you. Namaste.